In this video, we're going to look at how we can use our calculator to enter data and also calculate some basic statistics. For our example, we'll use the enrolled credit hours for 20 students from Math 120 in fall 2013. So even though our data is shown here in a table in 2 rows, all of this data represents one variable, and we'll put it in one list in our calculator. All right, so let's take a look at our calculator. The first thing we're going to do is hit the stat key, which is right here in the center. We'll use this key a good bit for our descriptive statistics. So I'll press stat, and right now we're on the edit menu under the stat key, and the first item is highlighted, and that's where we want to go. We want to enter our data. So we can either press the 1 key here or enter to select it since it's already highlighted. So I'll just press enter. Now we see 3 lists, L1, L2, L3. And if you use the right arrow key, you will probably see 3 more lists, L4 through L6. It doesn't matter which list you use, but you do need to note which list you use so that we can tell the calculator where we want it to calculate those stats. Now, if you have data in your calculator already and you want to clear it out, just arrow up to the list name. I'll put in a few sample values so you'll see how this will work. I'm going to arrow up to my list name, hit clear, and then hit enter. And that will clear out all of the values without you having to delete them one by one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put in those values for the enrolled credit hours for those students. I'm just going to type each one in and then press enter after each one to get it to go down to the next line. Okay, so because the calculator is doing a lot of work for us and uh, helping us to avoid having to do a lot of hand crunching with these numbers, we really need to take a second, go back through, make sure we haven't made any typos. Because if you've made a typo, even though the calculator is going to make this job easy for us, the answers will be wrong. So always take a few minutes to go back through and make sure that you've entered the correct values for the data. And if you find that something was entered incorrectly, then just type right over it, hit enter, and that changes it. All right, so our data is already in the calculator, and now we're ready to calculate the statistics. So I'm going to go back to that stat key, and I'm going to use my right arrow to go over to the calc menu, and then we're going to select one variable stats. And I have to tell it where the data is located. Remember, I put the data in list 4. So to tell it list 4, I'm going to use keys 1 through 6. And if you look on top of the key 4 in particular, you see that it says L4 there. So I'm going to hit my second button, the 4 key, and then that puts L4 there. And now we hit enter. And so it gives us our mean. This could be the sample mean or the population mean, depending on whether or not your data represents a sample or a population. Clearly, in our example, this would be a sample mean because we only used 20 students. It gives us the sum of all the values. So if you add all of the values up, this is what you should get. Okay? It gives us the sum of all of the values squared. So if we were to square each data value and then add those squared values up, this is what we would get. Okay, we also have the sample standard deviation and the population standard deviation. These numbers are slightly different. It's up to you to decide whether or not your data constitutes a sample or a population. Okay, but here's the sample standard deviation, the population standard deviation. We have the number of values. Okay, lowercase n represents the number of values in our data set. And then notice this arrow here tells us we can scroll down and see other information. So when I scroll down, I can see the minimum value is 6, the maximum value is 16, Q1 is 7, the median value, which is the same as Q2, is 9.5, and Q3 is 12. So that's a lot of information that the calculator has given us, and we don't have to memorize those formulas or do those things by hand.